So welcome to Silverstone. It's qualifying day for a British Grand Prix that is happy to trade the mud and rain of July for this glorious June heat wave. And the date is not the only adjustment this great event has made in order to sit rather better alongside the World Cup, because around the perimeter of the circuit, giant screens have been erected to enable the Formula One crowd to worry a bit later about Paraguay, but only after they've seen who's claimed pole position for tomorrow's race. And it's a qualifying session that might well match that England-Paraguay game for tension. Because what you're going to get here, along with the excitement, is the spectacle. This has always been a dramatic high-speed circuit, and Mark Blundell, the sight of these cars in qualifying in about half an hour's time is going to be sensational.
Definitely. You know, every driver looks forward to coming to Silverstone. This is one of the few circuits left with these very high-speed corners. They're few and far between on the calendar these days, and you can see the commitment behind the wheel. And for me, that's a great thing. We need to see more of that in the future. And
how often have you come here to Silverstone and the British Grand Prix and worried about heat being a factor?
Well, you know what, we normally come here and bring the raincoat with us, but there's no sign of that this weekend at this point in time. But, you know, I think all of the people here are going to have a great day. The drivers, I know, are all pumped up. There's a few guys down here who've got a lot of things to prove, and I think they're in for a sensational qualifying.
It's a wonderful scene. It's all going to be a bit of a contrast with Monaco 2 weeks ago in terms of qualifying speed, but it might not be a match for Monaco in terms of controversy, and Michael Schumacher remains the big story as we check the Formula One headlines. He was found guilty and he was sent to the back of the grid, but Michael Schumacher still feels no need to apologise for the track blocking incident in Monaco. More in a moment. Maybe Schumacher's performance is a little more convincing in the new movie Cars from the Toy Story team. He's cast as the friendly voice of Ferrari.
Hi, Lightning McQueen told me this was the best place in the world to get tyres. How about setting me and my friends up with 3 or 4 sets each?
Guido, there is a real Michael Schumacher Ferrari in my store. A real Ferrari! Punch me, Guido. Punch me in the face. This is the most glorious day of my life.
Wow.
Back in the real world, Williams is set to announce a new 3-year engine deal with Toyota, but denied that they're poised for a greater involvement with the Japanese manufacturer. David Coulthard is reaping the benefits of his Monaco podium place. Reports have the Caped Crusader in talks with Ferrari for a drive next season. Jenson Button, in desperate need of supernatural powers, will bravely fly the flag at his home Grand Prix, but writes off his chances of a home win. The favourite remains Fernando Alonso, whose victory in Monaco stretched his Drivers' Championship lead to 21 points over Michael Schumacher. It's 4 wins and 3 seconds in 7 races for Alonso, who describes it as a near-perfect start to the defence of his title. But as yet, he's never won a Formula One race here at Silverstone, whereas Michael Schumacher has won here on 3 occasions on his way to 7 World Championship titles. It's the kind of record that should have earned him the unwavering respect of everyone in Formula One. But instead, he comes here with a rather tarnished image, tarnished reputation after the events of Monaco. Ted Kravitz has been watching him handle it all.
Formula One's favourite flawed genius has been keeping a low profile at Silverstone this weekend. He and Ferrari are determined to hit back with pole position today and a race win on Sunday. But Michael Schumacher can't escape questions over the now infamous qualifying accident at Ras Kass. Deliberate or not, this moment and the following penalty could have ruined Ferrari's season.
Yeah, the whole thing started that we were guilty and we had to prove our innocence, and I think things should be the other way around because the consequences are so serious. You've got to be absolutely sure of what you're doing.
I think it's more important to know what I know, what happened, what really happened. I don't see any reason to explain in detail because, you see, a lot of people, they believe what they want to believe, and you can give them whatever proof, it doesn't really change because that's what they want to believe. So you care more for the people that believe in you, and they don't need to have this explanation because they believe who and what you are. And there you go. I mean, the world doesn't stop. Life continues, racing continues, 11 races to go, 21 points behind. Nowhere near than finished.
Michael's a director of the Grand Prix Drivers Association and is meant to set a good example. There were calls for him to resign after the Monaco incident, but in a drivers' meeting here yesterday, he toughed it out and won't step down.
I don't see what kind of explanation you can get apart from, I cocked up, I'm sorry, you know, it was stupid of me. That's the only thing that can be said.
You know, I'm sure we will talk it over, and it's the best thing for us to do because a lot of people have said things in the press, and there will be questions asked in the meeting. But you know, it's something that we need to clear up more than anything else and get on with it.
To be honest, I can't see an explanation for what I saw on TV.
It's not great what he did. It was dangerous. He slowed down 10 cars and it was dangerous for 10 drivers.
So you want an apology?
Maybe an apology, yes.
It looked pretty unconvincing, even to the uneducated eye, let alone the educated eye. So apologies are easy, but it still happen.
Do you think he will apologise?
Unlikely.
I feel obviously sorry in a way that it had to happen, but certain things they simply do happen, and it's when I say I feel sorry for all the casino it was made out of it, and if somebody wants me to go down on my knees and beg for something, I mean, I think that would be rather ridiculous.
So he still pleads innocent, which I suppose is fair enough. It'd be interesting, though, to get the views of Alan Jones, former Formula One world champion. And Alan, welcome to Silverstone. How saddened, how surprised were you by the events of Monaco?
Well, I certainly wasn't surprised. And I think that's probably one of the problems. No one's giving him the benefit of the doubt because he's done this in the past before in various other ways. And I think that's what played against him.
What happened in Monaco happened. How should he have handled it during the course of this past week? Should he have apologised? Should he have held his hands up and said, I'm guilty?
Well, in my opinion, he's been caught with his hand in the till. I think he should just say, right, fair enough. Sorry, I had a go. I love his win at all cost attitude. I think it's fantastic. But if you get caught, put your hand up and say, all right, sorry, boys, apologise to the other guys that you've inconvenienced and get on with it.
What sort of extra determination do you think we're going to see this weekend from both Michael and his Ferrari team here behind us?
Well, I think they've got the bit between their teeth. They've certainly they're going to try and prove to us that he doesn't have to do something like that to get the results. And I think you'll see a pretty spirited qualifying session this afternoon for sure. Unfortunately, the track might be a little bit wide for him to do the same thing again, and there's no curb, so he might have to just get on with it.
Well, your British Grand Prix win, it came a few years ago, but it came at Brands Hatch. What sort of mixed memories do you have of Silverstone?
Well, I mean, I lived in England for 13 years, and to win the British Grand Prix at Brands was fantastic. It was almost like winning my home Grand Prix. And I led the Grand Prix here by 20 seconds, and it was Regazzoni went on to win it. I retired with some stupid little mechanical failure, and that was Frank's first ever Grand Prix win, which I would have loved to have given him. But anyway, we compensated for it afterwards.
Well, it's great to see you back here, Alan, and enjoy the weekend. You come
Thank you,
a long
Steve.
way to
I'm
be
sure
with
it'll be
us
a great
here this
one.
weekend. By contrast, the closest Formula One team to the Silverstone circuit is Midland Racing. They're right outside the front gate. And Martin Brundle got their help in putting together his guide to this Silverstone circuit.
Silverstone, the home of British motorsport and 7 of the 11 Grand Prix teams. I'm delighted to say we're joined by Tiago Monteiro for the track guide at Silverstone this year. First of all, explain why we're wearing these T-shirts.
Well, basically, it's just a little idea we had. We're doing 100 T-shirts, limited edition, to give away to our friends, fans, journalists in the paddock. You know, people don't usually give too many things in Formula One, and we try to be a little bit different.
Nice touch. Tell us about Silverstone then. Coming down the pit straight at 185 miles an hour, and you're barely lifting through cops now. Everybody's talking about it.
The G-force is just incredible, and the grip is amazing. I actually aim for when I see the red part over there, and then I know it's right after that the apex point will come.
But that's a square meter of red paint you're talking about.
Yeah, but I got that in my head now, and I always look at that, so I hope they're not going to change that painting because otherwise I'll be in trouble.
After the high-speed exit of Copse, there's a short straight down to Maggots and the legendary Beckett's Corner. Now, you've probably been averaging 170 miles an hour in the lap so far, and still you haven't touched the brake pedal.
No, it's pretty particular. It's pretty amazing the speed we reach here. And you just brush a little bit the brakes for this one, and go down 2 gears. You're still in 5th gear, which is very, very quick, and then 4th gear for the next one. This is an amazingly high-speed complex, really, and a huge adrenaline, really.
So you're just lifting off the throttle and downshifting, and that's enough to slow the car quite considerably?
Nowadays, with the downforce we have, just the fact of lifting really slows you down so much that in those kind of corners where it's really in between, just the fact of lifting is enough to slow you down.
It's a long haul down Hanger Straight, up to 190 miles an hour. Gentle rise, bring it to the left-hand side for Stowe. You're still going to be doing 150 on the way in. And this is the first time you press the brake pedal with any amount of energy. Understeer through the exit, over the blind crest of Vale. It's a tight left-hander. You really have to get across those curves. Club then, you go right around the outside, desperately trying to make the back end stick. After Club Corner, it's a climb uphill towards the Abbey chicane. Tiago, it's still a minimum speed of 80 miles an hour through here. Slow by Silverstone standards, but still a fast area.
Yes, it's still fast, and because it's uphill, you're able to brake a lot later than usual. You have to take the curbs a lot, and those curbs are very, very vicious, actually, for the car, for your tires, for yourself inside the car. But you need to go over them to cut as much room as you can. Bridge, obviously, very famous corner. Very, very quick, but again, the apex is very important. If you miss a little bit the apex, your angle, then you're in trouble.
Just a slower complex to go then. Priory, followed by Brooklands, just 60 miles an hour. They're trying to stop the cars, taking too much curb there and cheating the line. Finally, Luffield, a never-ending right-hander. You simply have to be patient, wait for the car to stop sliding and bury the throttle pedal. Woodcote is easily flat out onto the pit straight. You're soon into another lap.
But Mark, the regulations tell us that these cars are 200 horsepower down on last year. Why are they still so blindingly quick around Silverstone?
They've reduced the horsepower, but the cornering speeds have gone up. You give these guys something to work with, and no matter what you do, they just come back at you with something different. And you look at the Copse Corner, for example, it's an incredible sensation for a driver. You literally go down 180 miles an hour plus, and you flick the car in. There's a slight brush of the brake pedal, but it's purely for confidence only, Steve. I'm not kidding you. You blink and you're through the corner, and it's one of those situations where you never know whether you're through it or not. This sequence of corners here, Beckett's, I think it's probably one of the best sequence of corners in the whole of the Formula One calendar. You come down there, you're flat out, you just turn the car in. You know where else in the world you do that? It's unbelievable.
Well, we've moved down to Renault, very much a sort of local team to Silverstone. They're based down the road at Enston. Their world champion driver, Fernando Alonso, is based in Oxford. And of course, it was at Barcelona a month ago, a similar high-speed circuit to the Silverstone circuit, that he achieved his highly emotional victory. Very much the favourite here for this British Grand Prix. Let's hear from Fernando.
I think it's a fantastic track, especially with the weather we have now in the Grand Prix, sunny. It's a nice track to drive, very challenged, high-speed corners, new cars with the V8 with a lot of grip, really tough physically for the driver. And you know, it's probably the home of motor racing here in Europe, Silverstone, so it's nice to win here and to race here.
Bit of a home for you as well. You're a long-time Oxford resident. How much time do you get to spend there now?
Yeah, a lot more than ever, because in Spain I cannot go too much now, too often. It's crazy there. So I find my relaxing time here in Oxford, and it's, I think, for the 70% of the people in the team here are English, and it's a home Grand Prix for sure. And this is a battle between Bridgestone and Michelin, between Ferrari and Renault, and hopefully it's coming in our side.
A lot of Renault employees here this weekend cheering the team on. Does that make this event particularly special for the world champions?
I think it makes it special because, you know, they are literally a few miles down the road. All of the employees from the factory, and there's so many of them, Steve, who work behind the scenes, will be here cheering on the drivers. And you just watch Alonso there. That is daddy cool for me. He's such a young man, but he's such a private guy as well. When it comes to the race circuit, he gets the job done time and time again.
How firm a grip do you feel he's getting on this World Championship battle now? He'll know that Schumacher went very quick at Barcelona just recently. He's determined.
He's determined. Yes, he knows Schumacher's there, and Schumacher's got a point to prove as well. But Alonso just is exceptional. He is the new Schumacher in my eyes, and I think you're going to see a great deal more from this gentleman. But, you know, this weekend, Renault, they will be strong, but believe me, Ferrari have definitely come here to make some point.
They come here to be aggressive as well, Ferrari, you feel?
Oh, definitely so. They've rolled out the pit lane, and every time they go on circuit, they are just saying that, watch us, guys. Everybody down here knows what we're up to. We're going to make something out this weekend, and I think it's going to be scintillating.
OK, thanks for the moment. A very interested spectator here this weekend will be David Richards, the former BAR boss, who's won the battle to make a return to Formula One, getting his team one of the last places on the grid for the revamped 2008 Formula One World Championship. He saw off quite a lot of other contenders in the battle for that place, and now the hard work really starts for his ProDrive team and David Richards himself. David, it's almost welcome back to Formula One, but exactly why do you think you got the vote over so many other applicants?
Well, that's a question you really have to put to the FIA, but I suppose if you look back at our pedigree at ProDrive across motorsport history, and goes back 20 years in every discipline of motorsporting, including, of course, our tenure at BAR for a couple of years or 3 years running the team there. And we're in most other forms of motorsport, with Aston Martin at Le Mans next weekend, the World Rally Championship with Subaru, touring car racing in Australia. So Formula One was a natural there. For me personally, it was a bit more of a question mark, and it took a lot of discussion at home over the breakfast table. We're going to be based here in Britain quite clearly. We're, in fact, in the next month, the planning application is going to be heard for our site up in Warwickshire. We're hoping to have the team based at our site near Warwick.
There have been a few problems with that planning permission, hasn't there?
Well, not problems as such. So quite naturally, people locally are concerned what that means. It's quite a big thing, putting a Formula One team in there. It'd be the only Formula One team in Warwickshire. So people have concerns, which hopefully we've addressed. And it's interesting to see the extent of local support there. So if we get that in the next month, then we can start to make the next plans, the next steps forward. And as you know, it's not an easy task setting up an entire organisation.
Well, exactly. Whatever the size of the budget, whatever the quality of the personnel, how tough is it to come back and make any kind of impression on Formula One?
Well, the only thing you have to say is that there was only one point in time to come back, and that's 2008 with the new regulations. And it will be a new era for Formula One.
And of course, the satisfaction of getting it right in a sport like this is immense, especially on a British Grand Prix weekend like this one. We'll continue our qualifying build-up with another man who's got a big challenge, Damon Hill. Also hearing from Jenson Button and David Coulthard, all in a couple of minutes. It's Silverstone on the most fantastic of summer days. British Grand Prix qualifying in about 20 minutes, and a crowd of over 80,000 will be in the circuit for the race tomorrow, many of whom would have made a weekend of it, staying in the surrounding campsites. And today they've got absolutely everything. Sun shining, a fascinating qualifying session, and England-Paraguay to come later on those big screens. It's a fabulous sporting venue when everything goes right. But Silverstone has had its problems, question marks over its long-term commercial future, political disagreements behind the scenes. And the BRDC, the British Racing Drivers Club, in that rather grand modern building in the infield, they're the custodians of the future of the circuit, and with it the custodians of the British Grand Prix itself. The BRDC also has responsibility for developing the sport and encouraging future talent. It's a proud organisation, but it's also been a rather discordant one in recent times. But now Sir Jackie Stewart has been succeeded as BRDC president by another great British motorsport hero, Damon Hill, winner of this British Grand Prix in 1994. Now, as regards the future of this great event, is it going to be Damon to the rescue?
I represent the body, the BRDC, that owns the circuit, historically has done a lot for motorsport in this country, and it also is the club which the membership of which is the cream of British motorsport, and so that's a very honourable position to have. I'm younger than most of the members at the moment, and hopefully we can try and move the club forward into the future and be of relevance to younger people who want to come into the sport.
Another function of the BRDC is to foster and help future British motorsport talent. There's a lot of it around. One thinks of the likes of Lewis Hamilton, enormous potential.
Yes, they just need a place to go in this sport, and it's very difficult to get your bum in the right seat.
With you, has there always been a desire to get back into motorsport in some form and at some stage?
It came out of the blue, quite frankly. In fact, I laughed when I was asked by a particular individual who phoned me. But I thought it was, it has been traditionally a very contentious role. But things have to change, and unfortunately, either people go with the times or they get left behind. And I'm afraid that's got to happen with the BRDC.
In recent times, Bernie Ecclestone has not exactly shown himself to be a fan of the BRDC. That's a relationship that needs to be rebuilt as far as you're concerned, I'm sure.
Bernie is a member of the BRDC. I think it ought to be pointed out. He's a very much admired and loved member of the BRDC. He's got another hat that he wears, which is for Formula One. The British Grand Prix is secure until 2009. There is a contract to do that. The problem is that, as you know, Formula One has a desire to improve the facilities at every circuit it goes to, and that's really the tricky situation that the BRDC are in. They have to for a club of racing drivers, they have to find amongst their members people who are capable of handling the business side of what has now become a much greater business challenge than it used to be. And so there may well be a reason to remove the commercial side of the business from the club itself, and that's a matter of debate.
And in that BRDC clubhouse, they'll be urging on the British challenge, Jenson Button and David Coulthard. David Coulthard, of course, a podium finisher in Monaco 2 weeks ago. But both have rather written off their chances here at Silverstone this weekend. Maybe that makes them extra dangerous.
It's taken 26 races and it was clearly well worth waiting for. Third place at Monaco for David Coulthard gave the Red Bull team its first ever podium finish. After the race, team boss Christian Horner honoured a bet by leaping into the pool at the Red Bull motorhome with just a Superman cape to spare his blushes. The celebrations provided a moment to savour for the whole team.
The goal was to be on the podium this year. Clearly we haven't started as competitively as we would have liked, so that was looking more difficult, but Monaco being the way it is, and the car mechanically worked well. Efficiency is not the main thing around there, and I think as a team we just ran faultlessly the whole weekend, so I think third was well deserved. And now maybe back to a little bit of reality here at Silverstone, where it's such a high-speed circuit. Efficiency is the key. We've got some developments that we've got on the car from the previous test in Barcelona, and now it remains to be seen just whether that moves us forward or not.
Jenson Button will certainly be hoping to move forward after a disappointing run in Monaco, where he came home a distant 11th. Here on home soil, it's not just the English football team who the flags are flying for this weekend.
First of all, it's a circuit I love, but also, in front of the home crowd, and this is the British Grand Prix, and we've got fantastic weather, so hopefully we can have a good weekend, and I think we will. For us, a good weekend will be to get the best out of the package that we have, and then we'll see where we end up. But I'm not going to say where we're going to finish because we don't know that.
Mark, what would you say will be a good weekend for Jenson and Honda?
I think a great weekend would be Jenson on the podium, and I think that'd be a great weekend for Honda. But you can just see Jenson's comments there, his expectations a little bit lower than what it started off in the season. But the desire from the crowd and from himself is here to try and win again here.
Well, it's all very frustrating because I know that Jenson had targeted this weekend for something rather special, full of confidence in the early part of the season, and he wanted Silverstone weekend. He wanted to set the standard in qualifying and then sit back and see England make a strong, positive start in the World Cup. Well, they're all a bit worried about Jenson around the crowd here, but they're rather more confident about England. Here's Ted Kravitz.
Well, yes, Steve, the nation's obsession with the World Cup has extended well into the Formula One pit lane. Jenson Button even flying one of those England car flags of his own on the car. And 17 out of the 22 F1 drivers have competing teams to support. What arrangements have you made to watch the game?
Well, we'll move a few briefings around. So obviously practice or qualifying's earlier. So we'll get through the briefings very quickly, very efficiently, and make sure that we can see most of the game.
World Cup, who are you supporting?
Oh, green and gold.
Who are they then?
Greatest sporting nation in the world.
England.
Green and gold. We'll do all right. Hopefully we can get further than you guys.
We all support Spain, the Spanish people, but I think the favorite will be Brazil.
Of course, Germany. I hope we'll at least go to the finals.
Absolutely Italy.
Yeah.
Of course, Japan team. Ganbare Nippon.
My home country, France.
England?
Definitely England. I think it's going to be a good game. Hopefully not too good, hopefully it'll be nice and easy.
And the crowd here at Silverstone with the best of both worlds. I'm sure they know their football, they certainly know how to arrive, and they'll definitely know who to support when England take on Paraguay a bit later. But how well do they know their Formula One? and how much can any of us mere mortals know about the challenge of driving an F1 car? So we're using this British Grand Prix to reveal some of the secrets of the cockpit, with the help of Martin Brundle, some fancy graphics and an F1 Red Bull on one of those more traditional wet days at Silverstone.
You'll often hear motor racing people talking about balance, oversteer and understeer. Using this Red Bull Formula One car, unusual camera angles and graphics, I'm going to demonstrate to you what it all means. Balance is the holy grail of race car setup. It means the front and the rear of the car slide in unison. Power and grip are nothing without balance. The driver needs consistency and confidence that the car is going to stick. The most frustrating aspect is understeer. Imagine arriving at a corner, I turn the wheel and the front doesn't bite enough. It starts running wide onto the dirty part of the racetrack. It doesn't steer enough, it understeers. I'm going to set this car up now to understeer, take it out onto the track and show you exactly what it feels like.
Okay, we're out on the track. We've taken some front wing off to make this car understeer. I've tightened the traction control up.
The red steering wheel shows when the car is sliding. Green means it's online. The two green lines sweeping ahead represent the ideal track position.
Down then, into Beckett. I'm going to turn in, and the front goes right across the road. I'm nearly up against the curb. Down 4 gears. Lots of grip here, turns in okay. Then it power understeers on the exit. As I try to put the throttle on to get out of the corner, the front is running wider and wider and wider.
Oversteer is the opposite problem and can easily lead to spinning the car. I'm going to set this Red Bull up now to oversteer by reducing the rear wing angle.
Get the nose in and wait for the back to slide. What a difference. So again, the nose goes in and immediately the back wants to slide. And you're trying to get the car out of the corner. It's so slow because you're just waiting for the slide to stop. I'm steering away from the corner to arrest the slide. It's called opposite lock, and the back wants to come out. So it gives you great turn in, which is rewarding, but then you can't get on the throttle as quickly as you want to, because the back just won't stick.
Another way to change the balance and affect the handling of the car and say reduce understeer is to change the front suspension. For example, the spring or torsion bar can be reduced, as can the front anti-roll bar. The car will generally be softer and more compliant. The shock absorbers, or dampers as we call them, can also be changed to be stiffer or softer. The problem is, a soft car rolls around too much and lacks grip and feel. A stiff car will simply bounce along the racetrack. Let's reassemble the front suspension. The car should be nicely balanced. Take it out on the racetrack and see how it feels.
Into Cox Corner, fantastic grip. I can now build on each lap and place the car where I want it. I've got confidence I can get this together for an entire Grand Prix distance. Got a good grip at the moment, and it goes where I point it, basically. I know exactly what it's going to do next. Look at that, I can hug the apex. The car's got grip, balance, poise.
Easy to talk about, difficult to achieve. The dynamics between the mechanical and aerodynamic forces as the car laps the track are extremely complex, but the end goal is always good balance.
More insights into the mysteries of the sport on the ITV F1 website. Some provided by Mark Blundell, and you can contact him directly for our question mark feature. He'll provide answers in our race build-up tomorrow. It's also the place for our ITV F1 competitions as well, and we've had competition winner Justin Roberts enjoying his prize of being the guest of Johnny Herbert and Midland Racing at this British Grand Prix weekend. And the answer to our Monaco competition of 2 weeks ago, Jenson Button first competed in the British Grand Prix in the year 2000, and Nicholas Hancock from Emsworth in Hampshire will collect the keys to a new Honda from Jenson later today. And this weekend's competition, well, it maintains the standard.
To celebrate the release of Cars, the new animated film from the creators of Toy Story on the 28th of July, Walt Disney Pictures and Pixar Animation Studios are offering you and a friend a chance to attend the United States Grand Prix on the 2nd of July. You'll fly to Indy, stay 2 nights in a 4-star hotel and watch the race from the paddock penthouse.
Well, my oil pressure's through the roof right now. If this gets any more exciting, they're going to have to tow me out of the booth.
You'll then fly on to San Francisco for a further 3-night stay, taking in an exclusive behind-the-scenes tour of the Pixar Animation Studios. And as if that wasn't enough, you'll also get a PSP console, a Cars video game, and some special merchandise thrown in.
Oh, he's got it in the bag. Call in the dogs, put out the fire. We're going to crown us a new champion.
To be in with a chance of winning this fantastic prize, just answer this easy question. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway is in which US state? Is it A, Nevada, B, Kentucky, or C, Indiana? The number to call is 0901 293 2020, or you can text F1 plus A, B or C to 63337. Calls and texts cost £1 per entry plus the standard network rate. Lines close at midnight on Thursday the 22nd of June, and we'll announce the winner in Canada.
Good luck with that, and we'll see you at Indianapolis. Now, David Coulthard knows the special feeling of winning the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, and battle is about to be joined. It's British Grand Prix qualifying when we return.
Здравствуйте, друзья, с вами РЕН-ТВ, российский голос Формулы-1 в прямом эфире с трассы Сильверстоун, арены квалификации перед Гран-при Великобритании 8-м этапом чемпионата мира 2006 года. 2 недели спустя Монте-Карло мы полностью меняем декорации, и на ваших экранах тот самый бывший военный аэродром времен Второй мировой войны, который сразу же после окончания, собственно говоря, войны был переоборудован вот в такую гоночную базу. Сначала по взлетным полосам, затем по рулежным дорожкам вокруг, и постепенно Сильверстоун приобрел нынешнюю конфигурацию. Конфигурация, которая практически не менялась. Трасса, конечно, обзавелась несколькими шиканами в 3-м секторе, но тем не менее ее база, ее скорость остаются неизменными, и уже в 40-й раз здесь пройдет Гран-при, хотя первый состоялся аж в 50-м году. Более того, это был самый первый Гран-при в истории чемпионатов мира Формулы-1, но время от времени, сначала в 50-х с трассы Эйнтри менялась, чередовалась местами арена Сильверстоуна, затем с Брэнс-Хэтчем, и вот в 40-й раз уже здесь в Сильверстоуне пройдет Гран-при Великобритании. Схема трассы на ваших экранах. Вы видите первые 2 сектора здесь гораздо длиннее, чем 3-й, коротенький. Больше того, трасса, в общем-то, как бы состоит, по словам всех пилотов, из 2 абсолютно разных частей. Первые 2 сектора очень скоростные, причем в этом году гораздо больше, чем ранее. Почему, мы об этом остановимся, естественно, чуть-чуть подробнее затем. Ну и 3-й, очень медленные повороты, соответственно, 2 разных типов практически настроек требует трасса. Подобрать здесь идеальный баланс очень и очень непросто. Плюс к этому, поскольку здесь местность абсолютно плоская и, как вы понимаете, понимаете, аэродромы, особенно раньше, когда самолеты не были столь мощными, как современные реактивные, строились в основном в преобладающей эрозе ветров, то и ветра эти здесь с окончанием Второй мировой войны никуда не делись. Ветра эти продолжают дуть достаточно сильно и очень часто мешают пилотам и на свободных заездах, и в гонках, и особенно по ходу, естественно, быстрого квалификационного круга. Так что вот, пожалуйста, иллюстрация на ваших экранах. Вы видите достаточно сильный ветер. Несмотря на него, трибуны заполнены. И это очень серьезная победа организаторов. А почему, мы также поговорим, ну, буквально через несколько минут.
Silverstone and the British Grand Prix set for its first taste of the new three-part qualifying system that's provided us with so much excitement in the 2006 season so far. A three-part high-speed shootout that we'll enjoy with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thanks very much, Steve. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Silverstone. Well done for dragging yourselves away from the saga of the metatarsals and the stiff backs. That can all wait. Here at Silverstone, we're experiencing something of a heat wave. One wag dubbed the place the Woodcote d'Azur, and certainly with a track temperature of 43 degrees and an air temperature of 29 degrees, it is so much hotter than anybody expected this weekend, and pretty much all of the runners have experienced difficulties. There was a major test session here in April, of which Renault were the fastest car, but pretty much everybody ran here and felt they had a good read on the Silverstone circuit ahead of the British Grand Prix. Ferrari and Toyota, the two notable absentees from that test. But everybody's come back here this weekend. It's very windy. The gusts blowing straight down the pit straight into the heads of the drivers, and certainly blowing them a little bit off course through Beckett's corner, amongst others. And well, everybody finding that the track is giving less grip, that it's much more difficult to find a balance and a setup for than they had anticipated. And well, Martin Brundle's illustration there just before of understeer and oversteer very clearly explained. And I think you'll see quite a few cars this afternoon struggling to get their cars, drivers struggling to get their cars around the corners. There is Kimi Räikkönen for McLaren. He was reasonably fast this morning, fourth quickest, behind Michael Schumacher and Nick Heidfeld, Martin, who was particularly quick in the BMW Sauber. And what's your read on this weekend so far?
It's difficult to read because I think we've got a track temperature of 43 degrees centigrade out there. The track's a living thing. It's got an emulsion of oils and rubber and rubbish out there, even just fine particles on the surface. And it is making the track significantly different to what the drivers expected, and throw in the strong gusty wind that sweeps across this flat circuit and affects you in a different way in each corner. If it's a headwind, it helps the car. If it's a tailwind, it significantly upsets the car. But so I think they're out there really struggling to do anything close to the times they were doing in practice, in their private practice, and they've got to adapt their car and their driving style and go and hang it out on the edge. Kimi Räikkönen spun off on his in-lap coming in, didn't he, at the end of this morning's session, ended up parked on the grass, just swept into the Vale corner from a too wider angle. This corner that Alonso is in now caught the grass and ended up in that big area of grass in the middle there. So the McLarens seem to be struggling slightly, but we have seen them pick up pace when it really matters. Low fuel and new tyres, and I think we could see some unusual runners drop out, and Alonso there with quite a lot of oversteer through the Abbey chicane. We haven't seen that car sliding around at all this season like that.
Well, both the Renault drivers went off the track yesterday during the free practice session, as did many of the cars. It was really very slippery out there. More grip though today as the rubber has gone down onto the track. And unusually, Alonso, one of the first cars out on track, obviously keen on getting a feel for the conditions here this afternoon, setting a banker time. A 1:23.5 is pretty slow though. Just to give you a reference, this morning in free practice, the fastest time of Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, 1:20.9. And so there is the guys on the Renault timing wall. And I think it's a pretty important weekend for both Renault and Ferrari. Renault, Fernando Alonso enjoying a 21-point lead in the Drivers' Championship. It's amazing to think that Alonso has only dropped 6 points from a maximum of 70 so far this season. But this is a weekend coming off the back of a very competitive test for Ferrari in Barcelona last week, where Michael Schumacher shattered the lap record. And this is a weekend that Ferrari are targeting for the fight back, and the next two as well, Canada and Indianapolis, the beginning, they hope, of a red tidal wave crashing over the foundations of Renault in this championship. We're riding on board with Christian Albers, and Ted Kravitz has some news for us in the pit lane.
Yeah, but James, I'm not sure that tactic of Renault's to go out early will have worked for them, because Fernando Alonso was on brand new Michelin tyres for that run. We've seen from this morning's practice that a lot of the drivers can't afford to do the first knockout session this session on old tyres. Such is the gain that you get from the new tyres. But, well, he's used a set up there. Alonso has the new tyres.
Truly there, Smoking. Thanks for that, Ted. And so Alonso is now on a faster lap. He's his mid-123, as you said, James, and Ted, is not good enough, but he's on a hotter one now. Coulthard's gone second with a 23.8 at the moment. Speed goes fastest for Toro Rosso, 23.2, but truly looking like he's got a very significant problem. He's out of the car. It was smoking heavily as it came into the pit lane. Could that be the end of Jarno Trulli's qualifying session before it's even begun? And of course, a back row starting grid slot.
Well, Trulli has managed to make it into the top 10 shootout, the third part of the qualifying session on each of the last 6 occasions this season, but that looks like a fairly big problem, and he hasn't even set a time yet. So at the moment, he's got no banker lap to work on. Is David Coulthard, currently third fastest, and Martin was mentioning the Toro Rossos there. Scott Speed currently quickest, and both Speed and Liuzzi were in the top 10 this morning in the free practice. And I know, speaking to Scott Speed over in Monaco a couple of weeks ago, he reckoned that Silverstone could be a good circuit for them with their Rev Limited V10. Certainly, judging by this morning, they're on the pace. Could they perhaps knock out some of the bigger teams and finally make it for the first time this season into the top 10 shootout? Just to remind you the format, 2 15-minute knockout sessions here as we look at Trulli with a lot of smoke coming out of the back of that Toyota. And we'll lose the slowest 6 cars at the end of this first 15-minute session. Same story again at the end of the second 15-minute session. And then the fastest 10 will go for pole in the final 20-minute session.
Yes, I think the team that Toro Rosso could upset could be their sister team, Red Bull, today. They fundamentally look faster than the Red Bull around here. But that colour smoke you saw coming out of Trulli's Toyota there is usually water and oil mixed together. So it means that big bits have tried to escape the cylinders and mixed up all of the water jackets and oil supply. But what's going on at the moment? Speed from Alonso. If Alonso was on new tyres, then I'm surprised he's not gone quite a bit faster now. Raikkonen goes P4. They desperately try not to use a new set of tyres, the Grandi teams here. They're given 7 sets for the entire weekend, 28 tyres in total for the dry, and they don't want to sacrifice a set in the first of these 3 qualifying sectors if they can get away with it, but it's a gamble.
Jenson Button is out on track. He has just completed sector 1, and his pace is about 0.6 of a second off the fastest we've seen so far. Obviously, we want Jenson to make it through both these knockout sessions and get himself into the top 10. Give this very sizable Silverstone crowd something to shout about. As you look at the onboard shots, just look at that sky. It's absolutely stunning weather here at Silverstone. Amazingly warm, and everybody's reveling in it. The crowd's pretty numerous. The grandstands below us here are more or less full, and it's great to see so many people turning out. Not too many people were sure the British Grand Prix was on this weekend, and the message hadn't really got through, but certainly a lot of last-minute ticket sales have meant that the crowds have been pouring in today, and we're expecting a lot of people here tomorrow. As McLaren goes off the track there.
Montoya, who was the man out on the racetrack, but I was looking at some data. It's Kimi Raikkonen, that one, though, and only 12 cars have set a time so far, 10 have not. 6 minutes 50 to go. Remember, in these first 2 sessions, when the flag drops, the stopwatch is switched off. And they really are struggling out there to keep the cars on the road, but I'm amazed how few have actually posted a time with just 6.5 minutes remaining now. That is Rubens Barrichello, who's the fastest man on a 1:22.9.
Well, it's 2 seconds slower than the pace than this morning in the free practice. Everybody's really struggling here. Felipe Massa is the fastest man there through the speed traps at the end of sector 1 for Ferrari. Scott Speed still second quickest behind Barrichello. Jenson Button pops into 3rd place, a 1:23.2 in front of Alonso, who's now down to 4th, and Clean 5th. Massa, though, the fastest man of anybody in the middle sector. This should take him through to the fastest man so far.
He got it all wrong, though. At Brooklands, it looked like it could have cost him some time. and he does go fastest, but could have been significantly faster than that. Had a big lock up into the Brooklands corner, so Massa comfortably in, followed by teammate Michael Schumacher, who's P2 at the moment, I suspect, on old tyres. Barrichello third. It's moving around quickly. Klein and Coulthard in the top 10. Remember, 6 drop out at this stage, and there are the 6. Fisichella, Montoya, Trulli, Rosberg, Webber and Villeneuve. All big names.
Wouldn't it be amazing if that was the same names at the end, 5 minutes from now? Hard to imagine, though. The main reason that they're all down there is because they haven't yet set a lap time. Everybody else has gone through. The slowest man so far, Montagny, 1:27.9. Jarno Trulli, we saw jumping out of his Toyota a moment ago. Louise Goodman's tracked him down.
Jarno, we saw a lot of smoke coming out of your car. What was causing it?
We're not sure yet, but it's something regarding the engine, so I had to give up on my first flying lap. It's a shame because the car was running pretty well. Since Monaco we have a new car which looks more competitive, and we didn't want to change the engine in Monaco after Monaco because all was looking good, and then suddenly something happened.
Fixable or is it terminal?
No, I think I don't know, but it looks like it's terminal for the moment.
Thanks, Jarno.
Yeah, that's not going to fix with a bit of sawdust, and kind of wins that one, is it? It went out as a V8, came back as a V7. I suspect it's going no further.
One man who's going a lot further is Alonso, though. He is about to come through to go quickest of all. Fernando Alonso. And we're riding on board with Mark Webber, who is currently yet to set a time with 4 minutes to go. Alonso goes fastest, 1:21.0. Mark Webber goes 8th, 1:23.1. Williams not quite on the same sort of pace as they were in Monaco a couple of weeks ago, where Webber was in with a shout of winning that race before he had a failure on the car and a problem with the exhaust, which brought out the safety car. He and Kimi Raikkonen looked quicker than Alonso in that race, and but Alonso was brilliant in resisting them in the middle part of the Grand Prix. He managed to hold on as both Raikkonen and Webber fell foul and retired from the Grand Prix. So on 3 occasions now this year, Webber has been on for a podium, each time only to be robbed by reliability.
Well, the wind is varying between 2.5 meters and 4.4 meters per second, whatever that means. But I think what it does mean is when you turn into a corner like Stowe at 150 miles an hour, from a tailwind through to a crosswind, and that is why they're struggling. I mean, Schumacher on his hot lap didn't bother the apex at all. The car just got blown across the road. It's like when on a windy day you're passing a truck and you suddenly come out in front of the truck, past that truck, you just pick up all of the wind blast from the truck itself and the crosswinds. It's not quite as severe as that, but when you're traveling in the car so delicately balanced, it makes the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very gusty here at Silverstone. This was originally an airfield in the Second World War, and obviously you only ever build an airfield in a place where you've got strong winds for big aeroplanes. It was bombers that used to take off from here during the war. They need a lot of wind to take off into, and so it wasn't the ideal place to put a racetrack, but they've turned it into a cracking track. But certainly on occasional days like this, you get these gusty winds and it puts everybody off.
David Coulthard in the drop zone then, and Nick Heidfeld, 2 names we wouldn't expect to see in there. Trulli is going to stay 22nd and last. Button is only just in as well, so the 2 Brits really under the cosh with 2 minutes and 11 to go. It's a 81-second lap, so they've got to have started it 83, 84 seconds, 1 minute and 25, let's say, before the end. So they've got 35 seconds before they have to have started the lap that's going to get them into the next phase.
Well, Button is still in the pit according to the computer. No sign of him going out onto the racetrack with 1 minute and 50 seconds remaining. Another man who's got to get on with it here is Ralf Schumacher. He's just popped up to 11th fastest, the teammate to Jarno Trulli, so he's got himself out of danger. Klein and Coulthard, though, are down there with the 2 Super Aguris.
I think Button's out of this, you know. He's still in the pits. He's not going to get his outlap done. Coulthard's about to knock him into P17, and Coulthard goes up into 9. Button down to 17. Button's out. I can't see, unless he's out there without us knowing? I don't think he is. He's parked in the pits, isn't he? Jenson Button is not going to make it. Ted, what can you tell us?
That's because he got called into the weighbridge, Martin. It's complete disaster for Honda. He got called into the weighbridge after his second run, and then he made it back to the pits. They thought they were safe, but it turned out that cost him going out for another run. There just was not time to get him out for another run to counter Coulthard. He's out.
That is absolutely unbelievable. At the British Grand Prix, the crowds below us are shaking their heads. They watch Jenson Button with the England flag on the back of his crash helmet. Well, I hope the football team don't crash out in the way Jenson has here in the first part of qualifying.
Webber too, sorry to cut across you, James. Webber too has just been knocked out by Montero in the Midland. So Mark Webber is not through to the second phase, let alone the top 10. It's Webber, Albers, Button, Sato, Montagny and Jarno Trulli who haven't made it in. Klein just popped a lap in, and there's 16 seconds to go now. Anybody could still get one in, but there's nobody on a hot lap. So some major shocks then in this first part of qualifying.
But you know what's really strange about this, Martin, is that Button only did 3 laps. It means he only did 1 run. If you look at most of the other runners, even Alonso, who's fastest, did 2 runs. Heidfeld did 2 runs to make sure, Raikkonen as well. So Honda have sent Button out only once. They obviously sent him out late. He got caught in the weighbridge, and that didn't leave him an opportunity to react. So, well, we'll have a lot more to say about this when we come back in a second.
Монтани и Сато, собственно говоря, мы ожидали, что Супер Агури не попадет. Альберс в итоге не попадает, но все равно впервые в этом году все-таки Мидланд будет участвовать во втором сегменте. Благодаря кому? Благодаря Тиаго Монтеро. В последний момент он смог показать 13-й результат. Так что вот вам первая, если хотите, сенсация. Что же касается сенсации второй, со знаком минус, то это Toyota Ярно Трулли. Это ни много ни мало Honda Дженсона Баттона, за которого здесь болеет большинство, и Уильямс Марка Вебера, который 6 лет живет в Великобритании, в общем-то является как австралиец членом Коммонвелса, и сейчас с Патриком Хедом обсуждает эту катастрофу. Все они не попадают даже во второй сегмент. Итак, 11-й ряд завтра Франк Монтани и Ярно Трулли, 10-й ряд Дженсон Баттон и Такума Сато, и 9-й ряд стартового поля Марк Вебер и Кристиан Альберс. Все остальные 16 пилотов пройдут дальше, и мы будем следить за ними через пару минут.
Welcome back to Silverstone, where the sensational news is that local boy Jenson Button has been eliminated in the first knockout stage of qualifying. He was 19th fastest only. Both the Hondas in a bit of trouble, actually, because Rubens Barrichello was only a couple of tenths of a second faster than him. It was extremely tight between Montero in 13th place for Midland with a 1:22.8 and 19th place Button with a 23.2. So just half a second separating those 6 cars, and Jenson there on the wrong end of it. Another man on the wrong end of it was Mark Webber for Williams, who was one of the heroes of the Monaco Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago. A major shock, and in both cases, both men only did 1 run in that session, so they didn't give themselves any margin. They left it late, and well, Button got called into the weighbridge and had no further opportunity to go out and improve his time. But in his case, if you look at Barrichello, he was only just ahead of him, and again with Webber as well. Nico Rosberg only just quicker, so both Williams and both Hondas slow. Ted Kravitz has found Webber. Let's get an answer to what happened there.
Well, Mark, Jenson got done over by the weighbridge. What happened to you?
We weren't quick enough. The lap itself wasn't too bad. The rear grip was very, very low, and obviously Nico just got through as well, so both of us were struggling quite a lot, and I didn't manage to get a lap in with that sort of balance. So in the end, that's where we are.
Was it a mistake to do just the 1 run then?
Yeah, of course, in hindsight, but we thought we could have got through. I mean, yesterday Alex did 22.0, and today we can't get near it.
What are the conditions like out there? Because we see some big scalps. I mean, you and Jenson out in that session.
Yep. Obviously the Porsches ran, and but same for everyone. The track's been obviously all over the place all weekend, but same for everybody, and we've got to be ready to prepare and deal with that. So we didn't happen today for us. Long race tomorrow from there.
Yeah, say that again. Thanks, Mark.
Referring to Alex Wirtz, who's the Friday driver, the 3rd driver for the Williams team. But, he's got an hour to do those times. The track should have come to the teams to a certain extent, but it just hasn't this weekend for the factors we've already covered. But what Mark is saying there is, look, we did a 22 flat yesterday with Alex. we can't get anywhere near it today. We just cannot find a balance and a setup and a confidence in these blustery conditions with the track giving up grip at the moment. So that's a major shock for the team. And as you said, James, Rosberg just crept in, as did Barrichello, by thousands and hundreds. So a few people there breathing a big sigh of relief, and we're straight into the next session, of course.
Well, clearly they did think that they were going to be able to go out and replicate Alex Wurtz's time from yesterday. A 1:22.0 would have put a Williams 6th fastest. That's the time that Michael Schumacher did in that first knockout session. So the Ferrari is able to find the speed, but Williams not able to on this occasion. Nevertheless, the teammates have got through. Nico Rosberg is through to the second knockout session, and so is Rubens Barrichello. Huge pressure on them now to try and find a big improvement, because if they don't, they'll be knocked out at the end of this session, won't they? They'll be sitting ducks. Yeah, they'll be in the next 6. And Jensen there, I would think he'll be just completely shell-shocked by that. I mean, I don't think he was expecting to exactly win, but he started this race from the front row last year. He's qualified 3rd actually the past 2 years, but a driver took an engine penalty drop last year. So he's a man used to starting the British Grand Prix at the very sharp end, and here he is back in 19th. He's going to be on the grid tomorrow, and well, that helmet change of colours with his England sort of style, the St George's Cross style there, has not brought him any luck whatsoever, but I think they'll be questioning their own tactics on that one. Yeah, I think the team tactics obviously at fault there. It was too late for him to go out. He didn't have a chance to respond when he realised he was going to be into the drop zone. David Coulthard, the man who put him into the drop zone by putting a lap in towards the end. And well, it used to be a case of sad Sundays for Jenson Button at the start of the season. He was red hot in qualifying at the beginning, but the race pace wasn't quite there. But in the last few races, it's been qualifying that's caused him problems. He was 13th in Monaco, 8th in Spain, and now he's going to find himself right down in 19th place. Let's get some more news on the Button situation.
Well, James, you're absolutely right that he didn't have time, but actually, you've got to say this does point to a failing in the Honda operation, because, you know, he did have time. When he came back to the garage, I looked at my watch, there was about just less than 3.5 minutes left of the session, so that would have been enough to do an outlap and complete the final timed lap before the red flag fell, before the red lights went on and the session went out. But I think you're right. I don't think Honda just understood how perilous their situation was, and they failed to send them out for another run.
Yes, it's a random choice as to who gets weighed, but you have to allow for the fact that your car is going to get pulled in, and it does take 2 or 3 minutes to get that procedure out of the way. What they then need to do is throw some fuel in it, almost do a racing style pit stop and send him again. You've got to be out of the pits 2.5 minutes before the end of the session. You're going to get your out lap and your fast lap done, and that's exactly the same now in this session. Just 11.5 minutes to go at this time.
Well, it's always easy to be critical when you're standing up here. It's very harum-scarum down in the pits during these qualifying sessions. Decisions have got to be made quickly. There always has to be a plan in the background, though. But at the moment, it does certainly point to the fact that Honda didn't quite give him enough time there. So Ralf Schumacher currently goes second fastest. It says 1 on there, but Villeneuve has gone quicker, 1:20.672. Now we're focusing on the second session, just over 10 minutes to go. And very quietly in that first session, we were looking at the dramas at the back, but Jacques Villeneuve, who got married last week and is on a real high in his driving and in his personal life, was second quickest in the first qualifying session on a 1:21.6, and he's currently fastest in this session on a 1:20.6. I was out at Beckett's this morning, Martin, watching the cars, the very high-speed switchback, and I have to say one of the best-looking cars through there, the high-speed stability, was that BMW Sauber. It looked great in the hands of both of its drivers.
Well, this track's all about high-speed stability, and a 1:20.6 is not too shabby at all. That's fundamentally a very fast time in any format, in any kind of condition at the moment. Alonso's out there on a quicker first sector, and but Klean's got himself into the 1:21s for P5 in the Red Bull. Way faster, James. Suddenly they've come alive on these times, haven't they? Why is that? Wind speed's dropped a bit, but just suddenly they've come alive.
We have seen it before, where the first session everyone's finding their way after 2 hours in the garage, just thinking about the results of the free practice session. Then when they get their eye and get in the groove and find the conditions, the second knockout does tend to be much quicker. We've got less than 10 minutes of it left. There is one of the 2 Renaults. That's Fernando Alonso, the reigning world champion, and very much on a roll at the moment. 3 pole positions in a row in the last 3 Grand Prix. And of course he was on pole here last year. Didn't manage to win the race on that occasion. Montoya beat him, but he's very hungry to win it this year. He goes fastest with a 1:20.271. And Fisichella, his teammate, pops right in behind him, just 0.3 of a second slower. Renault then starting to put their cards on the table.
Raikkonen's on a hot lap too. He's somewhere in the final sector. Coulthard's done a low 1:21 and put himself in with half a chance of getting through to the top 10 shootout. Raikkonen goes P2 on a 1:20.4. They've turned up the revs now big time. They're absolutely maxing out the power available to them. They moved the shift point, changed the fuel mixture, give it everything they've got. They know it's going to be tight to get through to that crucial top 10 shootout. Alonso from Raikkonen, Fisichella, Villeneuve, Barrichello then in the Honda up to P5. Heidfeld, Coulthard, Ralf Schumacher, Nico Rosberg 9th, Klein 10th out at the moment. Liuzzi, Montoya, Michael Schumacher, Massa in the second Ferrari, and our track guide man Montero, who I think is driving beautifully this weekend. One of the best through Copse Corner. He was absolutely full throttle. He told us in the track guide exactly what he's looking for, a little patch of red concrete he looks for to turn in, and boy was he hitting that this morning very nicely. Speed is the last runner at the moment, so some drivers with a lot of work to do. Jensen, I think I'd have been round the back somewhere kicking something. He looks very serene on it, but this is a bad day for Jensen Button.
Fair play to Jensen though. He put his hands up on Thursday and said, look, things aren't going very well for us at the moment with Honda. We know that we can improve this car. It was quick over the winter, but simply what's happened then is that Renault and Ferrari have brought new parts to the car in a succession of races, and all of those new parts have just pushed them faster and faster. We've brought things to the car, but they haven't been brought as quick enough, and that's why we're in the position we're in. But even he couldn't have expected to get knocked out in that first knockout session. How is teammate Barrichello doing at the moment in this second knockout session? Well, he's up in 5th place at the moment, a 1:20.9. That's what the car is capable of in this second knockout.
Yeah, I think they were all I think they thought they'd comfortably get through that first session. I think it caught Webber out, and I think it caught Jensen out in the same, Mark Webber and Jensen Button the same way, in terms of, I think they thought they could coast through that. Montoya goes P5, last year's race winner. I love facts and figures and trivia and data, but this race has only been won twice in the past 10 years from pole position. In the last 2 years, it's been won from 4th on the grid, so maybe that's the target place to be today.
Well, you want to know how hard a Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix, is to win? It's the fact that this man, Michael Schumacher, in all the 86+ races he's won, he's only won here at Silverstone 3 times, and he's only ever been on pole position once. It's a tricky place, Silverstone. We're finding that out today. Here comes the 7 times champion. It's a good lap. It's not as fast as Alonso, but it's been a quick one for Michael Schumacher, and it pops him into 4th place behind Alonso, Raikkonen and Fisichella.
But if we saw a replay of that on the way into, he's coasting into the pits now, but if we saw a replay of that on the way into the complex, he got wide in Priory, was making little sandcastles with the right rear wheel in the edge of the gravel trap there, and then put him wide in Luffield too, so Brooklands too. So Michael on the ragged edge, but there's a bit more to come from him. Massa goes P7 with a 1:20.8. Ferrari perhaps not at this stage showing quite the raw pace I expected.
Well, we haven't seen Scott Speed at all in this second knockout session. I'm not quite sure what the reason is, but he is currently down shown as 16th, and Montero as well we haven't seen in this second knockout. So those two are in that position because of that. Liuzzi is out there, but not fast enough at the moment. He's over a second slower than the next slowest man, which is Christian Klein. David Coulthard, though, in the other Red Bull, has got himself at the moment into the top 10, but I'm sure that Ralf Schumacher and Nico Rosberg will be the 2 men trying to knock him out. Let's ride with Liuzzi.
To the apex hardly. I mean, and that's a guy who had an enormous accident there in the last major Silverstone test. That guy's really bolted to the ground. We know it, of course, as last year's Red Bull, and it was pretty handy then in terms of balance. Look Look at that, he really hit the sweet spot there. A bit of understeer, just a fraction wide under the grass creep. So over what to the Grand Prix drivers a blind crest. To us from this camera position, it looks easy enough. Sweeping around the outside of Club Corner, trying to give the car its head, trying to let it build up speed easy. Don't scrub too much with the front tyres. Look for the curb, and it shakes the fillings out of your teeth as you launch across those. Bridge should be flat. No problem, swing it right. Carry about 100 miles an hour through here. Now be careful, just give it all up and just creep around the inside. Floor the throttle one more time. Now hug the white line if you can, and he just couldn't get the nose where he wanted it, but he'll get a slightly better exit from that wider apex point. Nothing more to do now than stare at your dashboard. Is it going to get him in to the top 10? No, it's not. P12 for Liuzzi. So 3 minutes 43 to go. He's got an in-lap to cope with. Liuzzi's going to struggle to get another run. He's not going to make it.
Ralf Schumacher is out on track, though. He's going to try and get himself into the top 10. So is Montero and Speed. Leaving it right till the end, though, Montero and Speed. That's very interesting. Rosberg is not gone out yet. He's going to have to if he wants to get himself into the top 10. And let's get some more news.
Yeah, and Nico Rosberg down here at Williams, James. Nico Rosberg's also leaving it to the absolute last moment. That's the sound of him going out in the background on brand new tyres. But, well, I mean, this is a gamble for Williams. He's their man now. He's the last chance they've got to do well this weekend. And he's going out, well, he could get traffic, anything.
Thank you for that, Ted. Now, another man who doesn't feel at all secure is Juan Montoya. He has gone out on track. He's 6th fastest at the moment on a 1:20.8, but it's incredibly close behind him. 7th is Massa, just a few hundredths behind. Barrichello 8th, 9th Heidfeld, and 10th Coulthard. And, well, although Coulthard is on a 1:21.4, Heidfeld on a 1:20.9 is just over a 10th of a second slower than Montoya. So if he doesn't go out there and do another lap, Montoya feels he could find himself bundled out of the top 10. Very nervy times down there at McLaren.
Indeed it is. I think the last man who can feel comfortable is Jacques Villeneuve in P5 on a 1:20.6. Everybody else is going to have to go out for a repechage and defend their position. Montoya 6th, Massa 7th, Barrichello 8th, Heidfeld 9th, Coulthard 10th, can all be under pressure. Anybody not on track now, anybody who's not left the pits will not complete a flying lap before the checkered flag drops.
This is Scott Speed we're riding on board with, the American driver. First American in Formula One since 1993, when Michael Andretti was over here racing a McLaren. Not terribly successfully, it has to be said. Speed, though, has had a decent start to the season, but look at the handling problems he's having getting that car into Woodcote Corner. You can see the crowds in the stands enjoying the sunshine and the racing here today. And Speed goes 15th. So doesn't really improve. Montero is out on track as well. He sprung a surprise in the first knockout. Very quick indeed he was. He's exactly matched Speed's time in the first sector. But here's the man we want to keep an eye on now. Warming up for his hot lap is Ralf Schumacher. Coming through, sorry, to complete his hot lap, I beg your pardon, is Ralf Schumacher. What's he done? Can he get himself into the top 10?
Yes, he
can.
He beats Coulthard then. Coulthard's out on track. He's got to respond. Coulthard was a slower by a 10th in the first sector. This is the Abbey chicane. We're on board with David Coulthard. He's got a lot of work to do. He's going to beat Ralf Schumacher's time. He's got to find 4/10 of a second. That means he's on about a 1:20.6 at the moment if he's 4/10 down on the fastest lap. And now he's not going to do it. He's slower in the middle sector too. So I think Coulthard, we'll see anytime soon, could just be dropping out of this top 10 final phase. Over the line he goes, a 1:21.8, he's out. Ralf Schumacher's the man who's crept in, but he could be under pressure from Rosberg and Klein.
Yep, both of whom out on track. Klein on a better lap than he's done so far. Rosberg's first sector was good, but the middle sector's not been too spectacular. Scott Speed's having another go here. Again, the middle sector, the one that's let him down.
Rosberg fails, remains 12th. So last man on then, Klein fails too, as does Speed. It's over. Effectively, it's over. Heidfeld got up to P4 with a 1:20.6. So you're right, James, that BMW is going extremely well. But at the moment, it's Coulthard, Rosberg, Liuzzi, Klein, Speed and Montero who are going to fail, and the session is now over. No more times will be recorded. So it was Ralf Schumacher who just crept in.
Second knockout session of qualifying. Second British driver eliminated. Difficult times here at Silverstone for the local drivers. But now pole position shootout will be coming up in a moment.
Кристиана Клина 14-й, впереди него даже на 13-м месте Вит Антонио Льюци, позади него на 15-м Скотт Спид, 2 болида, соответственно, Торо Росса. Замыкает эту группу из 16 болидов Тиаго Монтейро, и вместе с Кулхардом на 6-м ряду стартового поля в бой завтра уйдет Нико Росберг. Таким образом, для Мидленда, для Торо Росса, для Red Bull и для Williams Cosworth квалификация уже закончена. Что же касается первой десятки, то с ней мы встретимся через пару минут, друзья.
Here at Silverstone, we're set for the pole position shootout that will decide the front of the grid for tomorrow's British Grand Prix, but it will all take place without the local hero Jenson Button, who sensationally, Mark Blundell, went out in that first session of qualifying. How bad was the misjudgment by his team?
It just looks like the Honda team were just too relaxed over it, just some complacency there. They must have factored in that he could have gone to the weighbridge, and it's exactly what did happen. And Ted told us during the in qualifying there that they had time to get him back out. Didn't happen at all. Jenson must be mystified and raged at this point. I won't understand what he feels like, I'm sure, because he knows he's in front of his home crowd and he's not going to be there. He's going to be at the back of the grid.
Explain what happens with the weighbridge. How random is that? It's just luck of the draw, isn't it?
It is luck of the draw, Steve, but, you know, everybody has to factor in that there's a possibility, and it's random. Yes, Jenson got pulled in. The problem is it looks like they still had time to get him back out there, and they didn't. Why?
Well, the other big British hope, David Coulthard, went out in the second session of qualifying. He doesn't make the final shootout. Very upset as well by the looks of it.
Yeah, I mean, David obviously has got some issue outside on the circuit maybe, or some feelings of something being done, maybe some blocking or something. That's really what it looks like there. He's trying to make some comments to some gesture on the pit wall, some people. But, you know, he's obviously outside as well. We've got no one from Great Britain here inside the top 10, and that's a disappointment for all of us. And, you know, those guys have got a lot of pressure on their shoulders, and they also want to do well for the home crowd. Everybody's come out to support them, and they just don't feel like they're going to give anything back.
It is a big disappointment for the British fans here, but the lesson of qualifying is get your laps, get your times in early in those first two sessions.
Yeah, definitely so. And you even saw people like Renault with Alonso, first session straight out on circuit, banking a lap time. They've got the confidence then to know where they're going at least, and if they have to readjust, they go back out and get the job done.
Okay, Mark, thanks very much. So the pole position shootout, Schumacher against Alonso. Who else will have a say? Let's go back to James and Martin.
There have been some rather witty banners here. Schumacher free parking here was quite a nice one. Another one was Schumacher, my granny can park better than you, was I saw this morning. Very amusing. Nice to see that the British wit hasn't let us down this weekend. Of course, Michael takes it all with good grace. He's been fairly phlegmatic and calm so far this weekend. Obviously, a lot of journalists of the tabloid persuasion still trying to stir things up over what happened in Monaco and get the other drivers grabbing him by the throat, metaphorically, in their pieces. But it seems to have gone fairly calmly. There was a driver's briefing yesterday afternoon. As far as I'm aware, Michael Schumacher is still in one piece.
Yeah, I don't think they said boo to him at the end, but I think he explained himself and what he's done for the GPDA, and that was it, Grand Prix Drivers Association. Coulthard, who actually shouldn't be too unhappy with P11. He can now run whatever strategy he wants. He clearly feels he was blocked heavily because he was shaking his fist at somebody, as you saw. Now, I wonder, remember Fisichella was penalised at the last Grand Prix in Monaco for blocking Coulthard as it happened. So, it was apparently at the McLaren garage, but I don't know if there was a McLaren driver out there at the time. Looking at it, the only drivers I can see out there where in the area of the pit lane where Coulthard was shaking his fist would have been Barrichello or Ralf Schumacher. Well, if it was Ralf, that's the man who actually knocked him out of the top 10. But in reality, I think DC should be quite satisfied with that. It's a good effort. He's way ahead of his teammate, which is important, and also he would only finish 9th or 10th in my view in this session anyway, and then he'd have been compromised on his race strategy. So I don't think he should be too unhappy with P11. The first of the runners, remember, the first man outside the top 10, and after that you can choose whatever race strategy you want, so he can fuel a little bit heavier and put himself in position for some points tomorrow.
For those of you just joining us for the first time, not familiar with the qualifying format for 2006, this is the 20-minute pole position shootout session. Now, they've gone out there, the top 10 all have to carry the fuel which they'll start tomorrow's Grand Prix. So they've already put in the exact amount of fuel they want to have on the grid, and now they go out and they drive laps and they burn off fuel at a rate of about 2.7 kilos per lap, and they'll get that back. And Michael runs a little wide of the apex there. They'll get that fuel back at the end of it. provided they've kept up to a certain average speed throughout this phase. At the end of about 5 minutes to go in this session, they'll come in, put a new set of tyres on, at which point they've probably got about anything between 10 and 20 kilos of fuel left in the car. The ones who are going to stop a little earlier tomorrow will only have perhaps around 10 kilos. The ones who are going to go a little longer in the race, perhaps 3 or 4 laps longer, will have maybe 20 kilos of fuel in the car at this point. They'll go out and they will set their time, which they hope will bring them pole position. And obviously, the more weight you carry, the slower your car is. So it's about getting the right balance between having a good qualifying slot here on a Saturday, as a very doleful Nick Fry watches on with one of his drivers in the field, Rubens Barrichello still, but Jenson Button sensationally out of it. And it's about getting that right balance and going far enough in the race tactically as well. So this is where the strategists really earn their money in this phase. We've seen that Nico Rosberg is the second Williams driver to get knocked out in the second phase of qualifying. He's now talking with R08 Goodman.
Nico, we spoke to your teammate Webber earlier on. He was clearly very disappointed. How do you feel about your position, P12?
Yeah, well, I'm also relatively disappointed. I think looking where we were in Monaco, that we dropped back quite a bit here, and there was no chance to get into the top 10. It would have been close, but there was no chance to get in there, and it's a bit unfortunate, I think, for us here, that we're not quite as strong. But I'm sure that tomorrow, together with a good tyre choice, which we have for tomorrow, I think we can do better than in qualifying for sure, as we've seen in the past, and I hope that we can still achieve something.
We saw some shots of David Coulthard clearly quite angry with somebody out on the track. I know you were quite close to him on the circuit. I'm not saying that you were involved, but do you know what it was that was frustrating him?
No, not at all. I had nobody during the whole qualifying around me. I mean, I did, but I always slowed down to get a big gap because I learned from Monaco. So I don't know what happened.
Thanks, Nico.
Yes, 2 more different race tracks between Silverstone and Monaco you will not find. And interestingly, as he said, the Williams not going that well here. And BMW, conversely, who looked really off the pace, didn't they, 2 weeks ago in Monaco, are absolutely flying. 2 cars then in this final top 10 round with Villeneuve and Heidfeld. And no Williams, sadly, no Red Bulls. What else have we lost? 1 Honda, we've got 1 Toyota in, 1 at the back of the grid with an engine problem for Jarno Trulli. So who else has got 2 in? 2 Renaults, 2 McLarens through, and 2 Ferraris.
Ted Kravitz, what have you got?
Yeah, well, DC David Coulthard has just stormed out the back of the Red Bull garage. He says he doesn't want to say anything because now, James, the matter is under investigation. And it's under investigation with Juan Pablo Montoya and McLaren. David Coulthard said it was absolutely disgusting what Montoya did. He said he blocked him, it was completely blatant, and they've taken the matter to Charlie Whiting, the FIA and the stewards of the meeting, and they're going to put it to them. He's furious, Red Bull are furious, and they're going to try and do something about it with Montoya.
Well, we're riding on board with Montoya now. He's still out on the track. He's made it through into the top 10 shootout. And you have to say, Martin, obviously we haven't seen the incident, so it's difficult to judge, but Montoya has a little form in this area, doesn't he? You think back to last year in Monte Carlo and 1 or 2 other places. He does tend to like to get in people's way a little bit. He likes to play the macho game. But, well, at the moment in Formula 1, the rules simply don't allow it. And we've seen some pretty heavy penalties for the likes of Fisichella, who's done it, and Jacques Villeneuve, who've done it in earlier races this season, getting in someone else's way and spoiling their lap time.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to comment until I saw it, to be honest. You know, is DC going for the equivalent of the professional dive there, hoping to get himself in the top 10? Did Montoya, move over on him? We'll have to wait and see. The stewards will have the data, will have the footage, they'll have everything to take a look at, and it's all good sport, isn't it?
It's all good stuff. Certainly there are plenty of places on this racetrack, although it looks pretty wide open and fast, there are plenty of places where it's easy to get balked. Down into the Beckett's complex, for example, if you come across a slower car there, you will lose an enormous amount of time if they don't get out of your way quickly. And there's 1 or 2 other places as well on this lap. It's Silverstone these days, it's evolved with the times really, since the first World Championship Grand Prix was held here back in 1950, the first ever race run to Formula 1 regulations. It's a wonderful and proud history that Silverstone has, and this racetrack has really evolved with the times. It still has some real signature corners like Copse, Beckett's, Stowe, and amongst others Bridge, of course. Really fast men's corners. But it's almost 2 circuits in one. The first 2 sectors are very fast, and then the final part of the lap is very tight and twisty. And that's one of the challenges for everybody, for the drivers and the teams, to get the cars set up so they work quickly in the fast parts, but also work quickly in the slow bits as well, where you need good braking and good traction out of the slow corners. And, well, we've already seen a few people getting it wrong today.
Well, revs equal power equals fuel consumption. They get 2.7 kilograms of fuel back, their fuel credit for every lap that they do now. I think it was 1.8, wasn't it, in Monaco, just to demonstrate the difference. I mean, the average speed around here is about 150 miles an hour. In Monaco, it's about 80 miles an hour. So just to underline how different the layouts are. The drivers, and you know what amazes me? Just watching the drivers just burning up fuel and trying to, how hard they're having to try and stay on the road. We've seen all sorts of drivers right on the edge of an incident and bouncing a couple of wheels down the grass, apparently coasting around at this stage. It's going to be a tricky Grand Prix. Going to be a few surprises tomorrow in terms of who can keep it on the black stuff.
I'll tell you what though, I bet BMW Sauber are delighted. They're looking very good at the moment. Both of their cars are in the top 10 for the first time this season. They've got both of them into the shootout. And I was saying earlier on, they've been looking strong. They know they're quicker than the Toyota, so they probably reckon they're quicker than the Honda as well of Rubens Barrichello. They'll be looking to qualify around 7th or 8th here in the next 10 or 15 minutes. But who's going to get the pole position? Is it going to be a Ferrari or is it going to be a Renault? Everybody predicting an extremely close qualifying between Schumacher and Alonso and Fisichella, and an extremely close race tomorrow as well, with Ferrari in resurgent form and Renault very strong and buoyed by recent success. So this is the point where things start to get a little bit more exciting. Just over 10 minutes left of the session. FIA President Max Mosley yesterday gave a press conference, and those of you watching at home who feel that this 20-minute shootout is a bit long and tedious will be delighted to hear that Max and Bernie both believe that 5 minutes should be clipped out of it. That's what he said. I agree with him 100%, but they've got to get the teams to agree 100%, and that might not be so easy.
It will be better, but the problem with that is they'll then be doing their hot laps with quite a weight of fuel on board, as they have to seal off and decide on their race fuel before they begin this final qualifying session. So we're not going to. I like to see the cars in the ultimate condition for speed, the minimum amount of fuel, just enough fumes to get them back to the pits after their hot lap, with the drivers on the ragged edge, maximum revs, maximum power. And of course then we're not going to see that if they do that. We're going to see them with carrying 50 kilograms of gas.
Yeah, but in theory that's the idea of the two knockouts, is they run low fuel in the two knockouts, so you get to see a Formula One car driven on the absolute limit, but the idea of carrying over race fuel from qualifying into the race, so we don't really know how far everyone can go in the race. It adds a sense of mystery and suspense, which I certainly quite like.
Yeah, I agree. It does make it better tomorrow, but you know, whoever's on pole today, we're going to be, well, is he really the fastest man out there today, or is he carrying another 10 kilograms of petrol? And we all keep trying to explain that, but I do want to know who's the fastest in the lightest, best condition, and that way I think they should all have to declare their fuel load in a sealed envelope before the final qualifying session, and then go out and give it absolutely everything.
Like buying a house, isn't it? Sealed bids in an envelope, you never know what's going to happen.
That way we would still then have some uncertainty on race day. But at the moment they're still in the burning phase. Who's going to blink first? Who's going to feel the need to get a run in and leave themselves enough time for a second hot run? Because the front row of the grid today is going to be very hotly contested, and we're moving into that zone anytime soon. Look at the amount of oversteer that Montoya had through there. It's just incredible. They're really struggling. We've got a track temperature of 45 degrees centigrade. And they're struggling to find grip.
Cut to the Ferrari garage, where they are ready with a set of tyres. Everybody is out at the moment on track. And Ted Kravitz has more for us.
Yeah, Ferrari are ready, Honda are ready for Rubens Barrichello as well, but we spoke earlier, James, about Ferrari having to be aggressive. They really do. They have to catch up because, of course, second place in the races just won't be good enough for them now. So they are being aggressive in terms of everything, bringing new parts to the car. Jacques Villeneuve comes in behind me, bring new parts to the car straight from the test to the race. But well, they say they're better since the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, and they've got better tyres for that. They're also on the soft tyre here this weekend.
Villeneuve, the first to come in for new tyres. Thanks for that, Ted. Completely agree with you. I think we're going to see a resurgent Ferrari over the next couple of months. They're expected to go very quickly in Canada and Indianapolis. They always go well in France. And Michael Schumacher saying this weekend that he really does want to have a big say in the outcome of this year's World Championship. And of course, it'll only take one non-finish from Fernando Alonso to make that 21-point lead over Schumacher disappear very, very quickly indeed if Schumacher's winning races. And I wouldn't put any money against that. It's by no means a foregone conclusion. This man is so hungry this season, particularly after what happened in Monaco.
Well, 7 minutes remaining. They can complete a lap after the flag has dropped, so it gives them a little bit more breathing space in this session. This suggests to me they may well be going for 2 hot runs this afternoon. Interesting to see Villeneuve coming in early. I think BMW fancy themselves with a good grid slot here. They're not going to coast and pick up 7th, 8th or 9th, are they? They really fancy their chances. Barrichello then in the sole remaining Honda.
Yeah, best grid slot of the season so far for the BMW Sauber team was the 8th place in Australia of Nick Heidfeld. And I think you're right. I think they feel they can do a little bit better than that. I reckon they can get 7th here. It'll be difficult to beat the Renaults, the Ferraris and the McLarens, but not impossible the way they're going. Last one in then, Kimi Räikkönen for his set of tyres. Everybody else out on track at the moment. Jacques Villeneuve has just started his first flying lap. He'll be the first one through. Let's see what he can do. Recently got married, as I said, to his girlfriend. Hasn't known her all that long. Joanna, her name. It's a bit spooky. That's the same name as his mother.
He's a happy bunny, and good for him. And Louise has found Christian Horner.
Christian, David Coulthard clearly very upset about that incident with Montoya. What can you tell us about it? What's he said to you?
No, David's very upset. He made space for Juan Pablo on his outlap whilst Juan Pablo was on a time lap. He overtook David, gave him plenty of room, and then made a mistake. And then I think they came close to touching wheels. And then he appeared to hold David up as he started his flying lap. So I'm sure the stewards will look at it and they'll deal with it in a way that they feel appropriate.
What outcome are you hoping for from the stewards?
A fair one.
Thanks, Christian.
Well, a bit more meat on the bone then in that saga, and DC doesn't have the greatest amount of love for Montoya for a number of reasons, not least because he nicked his drive at McLaren back in mid-2003. It was announced very early on. But David's a guy, he wouldn't be making a lot of fuss unless he felt the need to do so. So we'll see how that one. There's nothing on the computer at the moment about any kind of investigation, but clearly that one's going to run through the afternoon.
Michael Schumacher on a very quick lap. He's the fastest man of anybody in Sector 1. Currently quickest is Jacques Villeneuve for BMW Sauber on a 1:22.353. Schumacher faster than anybody so far in the middle sector, but now Alonso has gone quicker in the middle sector. He's giving away a little in the first one, but it's very, very close between these two as Schumacher's the first across the line. What's he going to get? A 1:20.8, but where is Alonso? Because he's on an absolute snorter of a lap. Here is the reigning world champion. He goes across the line and goes second. 0.04 of a second slower. I told you it'd be close.
Yeah, they've got to get him in then and refuel and have another go. They've got enough time. I think just about, if he fancies a second run, and he'll be wasting a set of tyres. Maybe he fancies that he'll get down with that brilliant starting system they've got, that he'll still beat Michael Schumacher to the first corner off second spot of the grid. Fisichella has gone third, Massa fourth, so it's Ferrari, Renault, Renault, Ferrari, Barrichello fifth, Montoya sixth, Villeneuve seventh, Räikkönen eighth, and Ralf Schumacher, the Toyota ninth, Heidfeld 10th at the moment. They're going to have to go again.
They are. No, the McLarens aren't all that fast. Sixth place, Montoya, 1:22.2, is 0.4 of a second slower than Rubens Barrichello. That's very interesting, but Räikkönen has just popped in on a 1:21.2. So one of the McLarens is going well, the other one's struggling a bit. And, well, Barrichello, what must Jenson Button be feeling? He's looking at his teammate, currently sixth fastest, with a McLaren behind him. Well, Jenson is sitting there on his Snap-on toolbox in the garage.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not picking a few of those spanners up out of that toolbox and throwing them around the place. no doubt that will come a little bit later on behind closed doors, which I guess is the right thing to do. So 2 minutes 40 to go. Be interesting to see on board. Will they just literally pit stop him? And they will indeed. Alonso goes again, so does Michael Schumacher. We're looking in the mirror that he looks in to see how his pit stop is progressing. When you've got so many men working on your car, the chassis so stiff, all you feel is a tremendous amount of energy going on. You can't really get a feel for when the wheels are on as you're sitting in the cockpit. Schumacher chooses to look in a mirror to see how it's going at the back of the car, and they are indeed all going again. Michael Schumacher out, Alonso out. Raikkonen is yet to pit. Fisichella is pitted, and well, how many of them are going to go out? They've got to go for another run.
Yeah, Fisichella's gone back out again. Massa is just dived into the pits. Ted Kravitz, what's going on?
Tactic, yeah, that's the tactic, James. They've all come in, changed tyres, new tyres out for this last run, but Fernando Alonso, it's so close. Renault believe he just needs to find a bit of time in the last sector, the twisty stuff, the slow stuff of Luffield, and he just needs to find a bit of time in there, which is very doable, and he'll have Michael Schumacher.
Thank you for that, Ted. Raikkonen is going to have to leg it out of the pits and more or less drive it like a qualifying lap if he's going to clear the line before 0 seconds. So Raikkonen then looking a little bit on his back foot in terms of time available to get another hot lap in.
He's on his back foot a little in terms of pace anyway. He's 0.4 of a second slower than the dueling Ferrari and Renault of Schumacher and Alonso. So McLaren have made progress, that's the good news, but they've still got a little way to go to close the gap on Renault and Ferrari. At the moment it's 0.4 of a second, but Kimi Raikkonen is awesome around this racetrack, and I wouldn't bet against him finding some time. Giancarlo Fisichella can speed up a little. He's currently giving 0.7 of a second away to his teammate. He's down in 4th place. And Felipe Massa, well, he is 0.7 of a second slower than his teammate as well. So watch out for Barrichello, Montoya, Villeneuve, Ralf Schumacher and Heidfeld. Those bottom 4 places, I think, are going to change quite considerably over the next couple of laps, provided everyone gets a lap in.
Good effort from Villeneuve then. He's faster in the first and second sector than he's been. Bit of understeer through Luffield. If he can get on the throttle early enough without too much traction control, holding the car up. Alonso's on a flyer meanwhile. Villeneuve goes over the line and moves up to P5 on a mid 1 minute 21 with some race fuel on board. That's a great effort. There's 1/10 of a second between Schumacher and Alonso in the first sector. Raikkonen has been super fast in the final sector, fast of anybody. He had to drive it like a qualifying lap, but that was his out lap, remember. He was so late out of the pits. Did Raikkonen get himself a run? Is he going to get an extra lap in? There's the flag.
They're all allowed to complete their laps, though. Alonso's the fastest man in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Michael Schumacher a little swirly on the exit of Woodcote. It's not going to be enough, I don't think, to retain his provisional pole position. He goes through, he lowers the bar to 1:20.5. He's 0.3 quicker than he was. Here comes Alonso to take pole from him. Does he? Can he? Yes, he can! Oh, what a wonderful lap from Fernando Alonso. 0.3 of a second faster than Michael Schumacher, and what an absolutely fantastic performance by the reigning world champion. The Renault guys love it. That is going to be the 4th in a row this season, but what can Raikkonen do? What can Ralf Schumacher do? He goes 4th, Fisichella 3rd.
Right, Ralf Schumacher went up to 4th briefly, so what have we got? Massa's 3rd, yeah, Alonso, Michael Schumacher, Massa, Fisichella. Renault, Ferrari, Renault now. Ralf Schumacher for Toyota's just been knocked off 5th by Barrichello in the Honda. Just popping into the 1 minute 20, so Montoya and Raikkonen 7th and 8th, but Raikkonen's on a flyer, James. Raikkonen goes 2nd.
And that is exactly what Alonso wanted to see. Michael Schumacher demoted to the row behind. That says a lot about McLaren's competitiveness, and it says a heck of a lot about Kimi Raikkonen. Look at that, just over 1/10 of a second slower than the pace-setting Renault. McLaren look like they're back in business at Silverstone. Alonso fastest, Raikkonen 2nd, Michael Schumacher 3rd, 4th Massa, his Ferrari teammate, 5th is the other Renault of Giancarlo Fisichella. Then Rubens Barrichello is down in 6th place, and Jenson Button, his teammate, will feel pretty rueful about that, because that could have been him here this afternoon, but for that problem in the first part of the knockout session. That means that Jenson Button will start tomorrow's Grand Prix from 19th place on the grid.
Great lap from Alonso, pretty There's so much going on. We missed a little bit of Raikkonen's earlier part of the lap, but what's more impressive about Raikkonen is, remember, he had just literally a few seconds left to get across the line. He was the fastest man of anybody on his outlap through the final sector, so he took quite a lot out of his tyres to be able to get that lap underway. Well, he certainly made it count, didn't he, with a 1:20.3. But Alonso then just shades pole. The three best drivers in the world are in the top three grid positions: Alonso, Raikkonen and Michael Schumacher.
Amen to that. Fourth pole in a row this season then for Alonso, and interestingly his second in a row here at Silverstone. The young man just knows how to deliver and when to deliver. Just knows when to turn the screw up. It was close first time round with Schumacher, just 4/100ths of a second between them, but second time round, well, it was comfortable really. 1.5 tenths, Martin. Seems like a lifetime for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, Michael will be pretty sniffy, I think, to have Raikkonen pull one out of the bag like that and pop him onto the second row of the grid. It's the way in now. They have to hold the crash helmet, hands device, gloves and everything. That'll then be added onto the weight of the car when it's scrutineered later on, and it's got to be 605 kilograms in qualifying to allow for other fluid losses and stuff that go on during the race.
What's very interesting about this is you need a winning car to win in Formula One. There's no doubt about that. But what we seem to have here is a Renault and a Ferrari that are very, very evenly matched. That's just been illustrated by what we've seen over the last hour. But what we've also just seen is one driver, Alonso, who has beaten the other, Michael Schumacher. And Schumacher doesn't like that. That's part of the reason why Monaco happened, I think. And tomorrow, it all points to an extremely exciting British Grand Prix.
But qualifying's been pretty eventful, hasn't it? Another extraordinary qualifying session, another controversial qualifying session, but Fernando Alonso brilliantly on pole position for the British Grand Prix, but much to discuss when we return.
Мы начнем наше прямое включение из Сильверстоуна. Ну а за час до этого передача «Обратный отсчет» на РЕН-ТВ. Так что оставайтесь с нами. Завтра нас ждет невероятно интересное сражение сразу между тремя командами. И Рено, и Макларен, и Феррари поборются за Гран-при Великобритании.
The British Grand Prix goes ahead tomorrow here at Silverstone with the world champion Fernando Alonso on pole position. A sensational qualifying lap to edge out Michael Schumacher. And then right at the climax of the session, Kimi Raikkonen got ahead of Schumacher as well. So Schumacher and the Ferrari back on road 2. Before anything else, we'll get all the opinions from the press conference, which is underway now.
Fernando, very, very close. Going into that last qualifying lap, you and Michael, nothing between you. Same lap time on your first quick lap.
Yeah, first lap I had a little mistake in the last sector, and then they told me in the radio that we were second, just behind Michael for really close time. So I thought, well, maybe I lost the pole in this mistake. But we had the second chance with the second set of tires, and I did a more normal lap with no mistakes. And it's true, 4 times consecutive in the pole is fantastic moment for us.
Congratulations to you. Kimi, quickest on sectors 2 and 3, not so quick on sector 1.
Yeah, we're losing a bit on a high speed. I think it's on a straight line. Maybe we have more downforce, maybe not, I don't know. But the car is quite good. It's as good as it can be, really. So I was pretty happy with my second lap, and I couldn't really gone any. Okay, always you can maybe gone a little bit quicker, but I was very happy with the car, and it was good for us to get a little bit better results in qualifying.
Congratulations to you.
Thanks.
And Michael, after a difficult Monaco, great to come back here with a strong qualifying performance at Silverstone.
Well, I'm not so sure it's so strong. I mean, we would have expected to be a bit closer in lap times, but then you have to consider obviously the fuel level. We'll see tomorrow what's the situation on that.
Bridgestone and Michelin seem to be relatively evenly matched here, but very difficult conditions, track conditions in terms of grip level, and of course the wind changes.
We haven't been here testing, so we don't know what it was like at the test. But according to the lap times they've been doing a test, something is different here. It's significantly slower. Nevertheless, it's conditions for everybody. It is a little bit tricky to adapt the car to the circumstance. No doubt it was very tricky yesterday. Today we managed reasonably. We'll have to see what it means for tomorrow.
And Fernando, finally, returning to you, it is close between the two tyre companies. How do you see the race panning out tomorrow?
It will be interesting to see the long runs. I think nobody did more than 5 or 6 lap run in this weekend. So tomorrow will be, I think, a question which tyre will be more consistent in the race. We are full confidence in our tyre. We have a great strategy in our hands at the moment, and I think thanks to this pole position, the things become easier. But tomorrow will be interesting to watch the race for sure.
Those are the opinions from the front of the grid. Fernando Alonso on pole position. Now let's get the thoughts from a little further back. Mark and I have been joined by Gilles de Ferran of Honda. First of all, the satisfying part of the last session, getting Rubens on to 6th on the grid. That's a good performance.
Yeah, certainly that was a good performance. I think Rubens did a very good job, and we're quite happy with the way his qualifying went. Certainly some tight times there getting from Q1 to Q2 and then to Q3, but then come Q3, I think he did a good job to get the time out of the car and put the car in 6th place. So I think we're in a good position with him for tomorrow.
But the feeling around the team, and I'm sure the feeling around the huge crowd here as well, that could and should have been Jenson Button. Why did he go out in the first session? What did you get wrong?
It was certainly a very unfortunate situation. I mean, very mixed feelings coming out of this session. Like you said, we're happy for Rubens, and very, very sad for what happened with Jenson. And basically, the first run really wasn't quick enough, and by the time he came back in, he went on the scales, and we basically sort of ran out of time.
How critical was that being called onto the weighbridge? Was that decisive?
It was very, very critical for us, and it turned out that I don't think we had enough time to go out and do another run.
What can we really expect now tomorrow, though, from Jenson Button show? I mean, you've got to have a strategy now to see him go forward. We need to see him go forward.
No, absolutely. I think, certainly the car is quicker, and Jenson is definitely quicker than where he ended up on the grid, and so if you look at it from that standpoint, we should move forward in the race tomorrow. So we look forward to a fighting race tomorrow.
In general, what is the mood around the team, though, at the moment?
I think, like I said, mixed feelings. Good on one end and extremely sad on the other end to have Jenson qualify so far back in what is his home Grand Prix and one of our home Grand Prix.
Okay, Gilles, thanks very much indeed, and all the best for tomorrow. Difficult day today. Difficult day also for David Coulthard. We saw his angry reaction when he came in at the end of the second session, and we know now, Mark, that his anger was aimed at Juan Pablo Montoya. What do you understand to be the justification of the protest that seems to have followed?
Well, obviously, the situation is that DC clearly feels that Montoya blocked him out on the circuit. We've had a little bit of this with Montoya in the past over years gone by. He sometimes gets a little bit of red mist comes down, and but the issue will be, did he really block him? Is it something that really can be looked at, and can we actually get some result from the FIA to say that he needs to be penalised for it? You can see by DC's expressions in the cockpit, he is a very unhappy guy.
Okay, Mark, thanks very much. Let's go straight down to McLaren. We'll hear from Martin Whitmarsh down there.
David feels that one disadvantaged him. I can't comment. I mean, I haven't spoken to the driver. We were concentrating on the rest of the qualifying session, which is fairly intensive. So I think it's for others to judge whether it was fair and reasonable or not. But felt strongly about it.
Yeah, but the stewards have been very keen, haven't they, to penalise people in qualifying, holding other people up, as we saw in Monaco last weekend. So you've got to be a bit worried.
Yeah, I am. I wouldn't compare what happened today with what happened this weekend personally, but well, we'll have to see. I mean, I think if Juan didn't act responsibly, I'm sure he'd be penalised, and that's right, and we wouldn't complain about that if that in fact is what happened. But I haven't spoken to Juan, just climbed off the pit wall. We were aware something had happened. There was a bit of commotion, but we were concentrating on just going through our qualifying routine, focused on that. So we'll see. Other people will make that judgment.
The stewards were very strong in the manner in which they dealt with Michael Schumacher 2 weeks ago. Do you think in this case as well they want to flex their muscles a bit?
I think they're just being very firm, and they're creating a trend now. We've got a permanent steward at every single Grand Prix now. And I think they're trying to make some hard and fast judgments, and every time they see something like this happen. The other issue is now, you've got to say from McLaren's point of view, if Montoya did do that, and he does get penalised for it, that's a big hit to them. And you can also see from the progress with the team that they've got half a chance of getting a good result here.
Well, once again, Fernando Alonso rose above it all. Let's get the view from Renault. Pat Simmons, we can hear from Pat.
Finished with Andy yet?
Congratulations, a fantastic lap by Alonso. You have to say, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it was. It's been a little bit difficult to really judge things these last couple of days. You know, the wind, the track's been slippery and everything. And I wasn't too sure where we were. You know, we'd had a great test here, as I keep on saying, so we thought we'd be competitive, but that was a fantastic lap. It really, really was.
Were you a bit surprised because you knew Ferrari were going to go aggressive on absolutely everything? It's win or bust for them.
Yeah, I thought that Michael was going to be more of a challenge than Kimi, but that was another great lap from Kimi because the first sector wasn't so good. The second and third sectors were superb, so it wasn't quite as I imagined, that's true.
In a way, Renault continue to surprise us, and they seemingly continue to surprise themselves. They thought that Michael might have been stronger today.
I think they had expectations that Michael was going to be stronger, and we certainly felt down here in the pit lane that everyone was going to be, at the same judgment call. Michael would be there, but Alonso, yet again, has just pulled something out the bag. And Kimi Räikkönen also. I think Martin Brundle alluded to the first 3 guys are the fastest guys in the world right now, and I think that really does justify that.
But how good was that lap of Fernando's, both in terms of execution and judgment and timing and everything?
Perfect. That's the only way you can describe those things. And it's down to the team as well. There's a lot of information going on. They're telling him when he's got some clear space on the circuit. Alonso then has to focus and get himself into the groove, and he produces. And time and time again now we're seeing it. And, it's something that we're going to get used to because he's going to be around a long time, and Michael Schumacher clearly doesn't like it, that's for sure.
And Kimi Räikkönen at long last showing what McLaren should be capable of this season.
Definitely. We've been waiting a long time. I know that McLaren have been working very hard with De La Rosa, Gary Paffett doing a lot of testing work for him, and now it seems like that's all showing through here. And Kimi Räikkönen as well. That guy deserves a break. And I think we're in for a cracking race.
Well, let's take another look at how they line up for the British Grand Prix tomorrow. A reminder that Jenson Button is way back in 19th position, but it's a front row of Alonso and Räikkönen. Michael Schumacher edged back onto row 2 with his Ferrari teammate Felipe Massa, Giancarlo Fisichella, alongside Rubens Barrichello. Your opinion of the way Rubens is performing at the moment, Mark?
I think Rubens has lifted his game, Steve, and this is something this is showing now in the team. Unfortunately for Jenson Button, things are going from bad to worse, but Rubens is going the other way, and he's now getting everything in place. He knows he can produce results, and he's getting the car underneath him with confidence building, which is going to produce something there. And, 6th place on the grid is very sensible, and I think Honda would be very happy with that.
And Montoya in 8th. Do you have any feeling that that might be a provisional 8th?
I've got a very clear indication in my mind that it could well be an 8th place, but, let's wait and see. The FIA will have to make a judgment call on that.
Okay, and then further down the grid, well, a frustrating afternoon for David Coulthard. Balked, he felt, by Juan Pablo Montoya during the course of that second session. Nico Rosberg and Luzzi and Christian Klein, Scott Speed and Thiago Montero in the Midland, completing the next section of that grid. And sadly, we go way back down to see the likes of not only Jenson Button, but also Mark Webber. Horrendous day for Williams, just off the pace in that first session, and also getting the timing wrong and getting the tactics wrong.
Yeah, I think they just got caught out, and they came off of Monaco with a very user-friendly environment with the car there, and they felt they probably had a bit more pace underneath them for this race circuit. It just hasn't shown up. So yeah, Webber, Button, big names at the back of the grid. Surely we're going to see something special from those guys, though.
Okay, for the moment, thanks very much indeed. We can get a quick view from Ferrari, Felipe Massa, right now.
Felipe, not a bad result at all.
Oh, it was a good result. I mean, for sure, it was definitely better to be in the first row. But in the end, it was not a bad result. I mean, starting the second row is always possible to fight with them. And the race is long. We'll see what's happened.
How tricky was that session? It seemed it was quite gusty out there.
Yeah, the wind was blowing quite strongly, and it was very easy to lose the car, but in the end it was good.
Well done.
Now the former world champion has joined us, Keke Rosberg. Welcome. And first of all, Keke,
nice to meet you too.
Your opinion of what you've seen today, what we've seen today, once again from Fernando Alonso.
I think the grid's not that surprising. You've got Alonso, Räikkönen and Schumacher up on top, and I think we all regard them as the fastest 3 men out there, so fairly logical.
How impressed are you not only by Alonso's racecraft, his competitive instinct, his ability to win, but the way he handles all the complications of qualifying now?
Yeah, he's very cool. He's new generation, very young, and very, very competitive package.
What about Nico at this point in time? I mean, Keke, you must be very proud, obviously, but You also know what's going on there to a point within Williams. The pace, it was there at Monaco. We come to Silverstone, we thought they'd be stronger, but it's not showing, obviously.
Yeah, I think the Aero package was much stronger and more suitable to Monaco than it is here. They're hurting quite a lot here, as you could see in Mark's performance as well. I think, you know, if there would have been 11, 12, I think everybody would have said, okay, about what we expected. But of course, Mark's P17 was quite a big shock, I think.
Michael Schumacher, we must mention to you, Keke, impressive once again today, impressive in the race in Monaco. You were among his strongest critics after what happened in qualifying during the course of that Monaco Grand Prix. What is your respect for him now?
Well, I try to ignore what happened in Monaco because I can't let it take over my life. You know, it's not really my problem and my war. I just try to defend the sport I love and I breathe, and think we should treat our sport with a certain respect.
Yeah. What sort of effect do you and an affection do you have for this Silverstone circuit? What sort of affection have you built up for it down the years, and the character of Silverstone that brings champions like Schumacher and Alonso to the fore?
Well, I think I came here first time 73 or 74 or something, and Silverstone then and still today is one of the traditional big racetrack. It's also a phenomenal track because it's very, very fast. So it really sorts out the men from boys here.
And we are set for a fantastic battle, you feel, tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good race.
Keke, thanks very much for joining us. And one other fantastic competition, the ITV F1 competition. Before we go, another chance for you at that.
To celebrate the release of Cars, the new animated film from the creators of Toy Story on the 28th of July, Walt Disney Pictures and Pixar Animation Studios are offering you and a friend a chance to attend the United States Grand Prix on the 2nd of July. You'll fly to Indy, stay 2 nights in a 4-star hotel and watch the race from the paddock penthouse.
Bob, my oil pressure's through the roof right now. If this gets any more exciting, they're going to have to tow me out of the booth.
You'll then fly on to San Francisco for a further 3-night stay, taking in an exclusive behind-the-scenes tour of the Pixar Animation Studios. And as if that wasn't enough, you'll also get a PSP console, a Cars video game, and some special merchandise thrown in.
Oh, he's got it in the bag. Call in the dogs, put out the fire. We're going to crown us a new champion.
To be in with a chance of winning this fantastic prize, just answer this easy question. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway is in which US state? Is it A, Nevada, B, Kentucky, or C, Indiana? The number to call is 0901 293 2020, or you can text F1 plus A, B or C to 63337. Calls and texts cost £1 per entry plus the standard network rate. Lines close at midnight on Thursday the 22nd of June, and we'll announce the winner in Canada.
Good luck with that. Mark, your final thoughts on what might be in store tomorrow. First of all, from Jenson Button, right at the back of the grid.
Jenson obviously is going to have that flexibility, as will David Coulthard, to put in whatever fuel they need. He's going to be racy, he's want to impress in front of the home crowd, but he's going to be frustrated. I think we'll see some real good progress from him. The front of the grid, I'm looking forward to that. We've now got Schumacher, Alonso, Raikkonen, fiery guys. Fuel-wise, I think Raikkonen may even go a little bit longer than the Renault, so let's wait and see.
What about handling problems they had out there? It's difficult for the drivers out there, isn't it?
It's tough at the moment because the circuit temperature is so hot, and as Martin Brundle alluded to again in commentary, it's like a living organism. There's things going on with the oil, and the wind is also a big factor. You get some gusts coming through, you could catch out some of these guys, but overall it's going to be a tough race, whatever. This is a fast race circuit.
And huge determination we're expecting to see from Michael Schumacher. This is the time in the season for the big push, isn't it?
It's the time in the season for the big push. He knows he's got some possibilities to make up some points here, but he's got so much to prove coming off the back of Monaco. Yes, he came there and done a fantastic race, but he comes here in front of this big crowd. He needs to deliver.
OK, Mark, thanks very much indeed. Before we go, a quick reminder of World Cup football on ITV over the next 24 hours or so. Later this afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago against Sweden. The other match in England's group, that's 4:30 ITV. Argentina against Ivory Coast, potential for a big upset, that's at 7:45, and highlights of the World Cup day, plus all the England reaction, that's at 11:30. And tomorrow, let me remind you once more of the early start for this British Grand Prix. We're on air at 11:05 with World Cup football later in the evening. Angola against Portugal. Grand Prix highlights as well, just after midnight. So that's the lineup. Enjoy the sunshine and whatever else is in store on this dramatic sporting afternoon, and join us just after 11 o'clock for the British Grand Prix tomorrow. Fernando Alonso on pole position.